the base concept on a mask is if I have something here. So I have an artwork layer. Then if I have a second layer here, and this layer, I will use a contrasting color so we can see. The base concept on a mask is if we go to this layer, right click on it and say mask, double click on the layer icon, choose mask, go to the layer below it, and say masked. So one is mask, one is masked. We can see the icons change a little bit. They get a little bit of blue on them. One shows the mask icon, and then the one shows it's being masked. And if I lock the layers, I get to see the effect of the mask. So you can see where I unlock it. So where the strokes are, it appears. Whether or not it doesn't. If that's too confusing to look at, if I just use something like an oval, I can see where the mask shape is. It masks. Now the thing to keep in mind when you're working with a mask is a mask does allow for, as part of this, we'll just do a couple frames here. So if I were to move this now here, and notice this mask layer has two colors on it. Oh. Okay, and I'm going to give it even more colors just to prove the color of it doesn't matter on that frame. When it's locked, it works. But notice that mask as it moves around. So your mask can animate. It can grow, it can change, it does not have to be the same. So going back to the previous effect of I pasted in the path, which actually worked, which I don't understand why it worked because it used to not. So anytime a path crossed, it would fail when I tried to do this in the past. Chances are then you'll get home and try it yourself and it will fail, and then you'll call me bad names and my ears will burn, but I'm used to it. So I now have my pen animating on this path. Remember, I had to adjust the registration point of the pen. So I click on it and I had to move its registration point because that's the line it's animating on. So I put it down to the point of my pen. So now the pen is animating. And now if I want that path to reveal itself, then what I can do is I can add a layer here for that. I'll call this my mask. And I will call this one art. And I really am a huge believer in naming your layers. So if I right click and choose mask, it automatically assumes the layer below it should be masked. So it's a one-step process, right clicking versus double clicking on the layer icon. Okay, so now I have that and we can see it's here, but there's no mask artwork yet. So I'll go grab my paintbrush. Remember, where the artwork is what shows. So I have my finger next to F6 ready to start adding more keyframes. So I'll put a little, let's see, blah, blah, blah. In this case, I actually want it to unlock. So I will put a little dot here. And then if I just hit F6, probably needed a smaller one because we're going to see that line show up there. So I'm going to go to a smaller brush just so it doesn't completely ruin the illusion. So I'm using a combination of motion tweening, frame by frame animation, and masking, and kind of motion guide where I've created a path Oh, hang on. Sorry about that. D2L gets grumpy if I ignore it for too long. And I have to go back and assure it that, you know, everything is okay. So if I wanted to write out an extremely long item, not just a word or something, this is probably not the best way to go about it because it's going to be a very time-consuming process. If I'm just doing a short title, name, trying to create an effect, then this is a nice thing that you can do. If you add in sound effects, so that if you wanted it to look like I was drawing on a piece of paper, I could even get a light scratching noise, so it almost sounds like I'm moving my pen across the paper. Vary the sound based on kind of position or where I would anticipate having pressure changes to make it louder and softer. I could get that kind of a scratching noise to go with it, and it would seem like I'm drawing with a pencil on a piece of paper. Almost done. And if you're not talking while you do this, it's much easier. I just want to point that out.
Isn't it going to go the wrong way though? Because you want it to, you don't really want it to disappear and
so we can see that I need to clean up a few spots here on a couple of these frames. So I should have been more careful where it looped and crossed. But I think it demonstrates and proves that it can work.